Hi guys, welcome back. My name is Jasmine and I'm glad to be here. I think that we are living in a time where is a lot happening. There's a lot of information. In school we used to call it, or rather my lecturer told me it's called information pollution. There's a lot of information coming from everywhere, speaking to everyone about everything. And I think due to all this noise, if I may call it that, we have a struggle in our generation where it's hard for, especially the young people, for us to be able to know exactly where we stand, who we are, what we are doing with ourselves, what to believe. And that's a thought process that I went through for me to decide to talk about this topic today. The topic is identity. I know it's a broad topic, I know it's huge, and I intend to probably be able to break it down in probably the coming weeks or sometime later and get to really delve deep into it. But for today, I'll just probably be talking about what identity is and how to probably know what your identity is and what factors speak to your identity. Identity basically defines everything that you are as a person, what you believe, how you live, what you eat, how you dress, who you talk to, how you talk to them, who you relate with. Everything about your life stems from identity. And that's why when your identity is shaken, when your identity is not certain, when your identity is neither here nor there, then you as a person, you lack the proper foundation, or you lack the proper standing that you need to be able to even tell us who you are, basically, or to be able to do anything at all. So yeah, I think identity is a very key factor in defining you as a person. It's a foundation, if we may call it so. It's the angle from which we approach everything. So yeah, who are you? What identifies you? How do you identify yourself? I could identify myself as, my name is Jasmine. You know that interview question, tell us about yourself. I hate that question. I don't like that question at all. Or do you guys like it? Anyway, so who are you? My name is Jasmine. I'm a young woman. I'm a Christian. I'm a child of God. I'm a communication specialist. And probably there's a lot of other things that I do, that I'm about, but is that what really defines me? So there's different angles and different ways to look at this thing, but what really is at the core of who you are. Let's say if, for example, you didn't have your career today, who would you be? Yeah, would you still have a standing in society? Would you still have your set of values? Would you still be you if all these things on the outside were taken from you? So there's a lot of things and a lot of factors that speak to us, but what really is your identity? Where exactly do you stand? The question, what defines you? I'm gonna look at this from two angles. One is intrinsic. This word is not worded. Intrinsic and extrinsic. One is how you look at yourself, and the other one is how people look at you. One is internal, the other one is external. So how do you look at yourself? How do you define yourself as a person? And I think how you look at yourself and what you describe yourself to be has a lot to do with, one, how you see yourself, and two, the words that you speak to yourself and what you feed on as a person. If I see myself as beautiful young woman, gorgeous. If I see myself as a victor, if I see myself as someone who's able to do what she sets her mind to, then those are the words that I constantly speak to myself, and I'll tend to define myself as such. If I see myself as a failure, if I see myself as a person with no grounding, if I see myself as a person who can be able to do something, then I will most likely not even be able to do that thing, because my voice is strong, and what I am speaking into myself is a very loud voice. Yeah. So what words are you speaking to yourself? What are you feeding? They say garbage in, garbage out. Whatever you consume is basically who you are. Yeah. So what are you feeding on? What are you taking in? What are you consuming? What are you watching? What are you looking at? What are you reading? Is it something that's adding value to you? Are you on social media 24/7? Is that what you consume all day? Christian, do you read your Bible? Do you spend time with God? Does that speak to you in any way? Does that speak to your identity? So how you speak to yourself, words that you say to yourself, what you consume. Are you your worst critic? Yeah. I think, and I found myself in this trap, where it's very easy to treat other people graciously, to treat other people in a very nice and loving manner. But how do you treat yourself? How do you speak to yourself? For example, when you make a mistake, are you gracious to yourself? Do you get to extend loving kindness to yourself? Yeah. So, yeah. How you define yourself, how you see yourself, how you think of yourself. The other thing was extrinsic. How do other people see you? When someone just thinks of you or mentions your name somewhere, what do they say? What do they think about you, or what do they see? And this also has a lot to do with how much value, how much weight you place or you put on other people's opinions and thoughts about yourself. It may not necessarily be a bad thing, by the way, holding some weight or about other people, but if your intrinsic is not very strong or is not very founded, and you let your extrinsic define you, then that's a problem. So it's fine to probably think about your perception and what people think about you, but I think the key thing and the strongest form of identity should come from within, rather than from what other people are saying about you. There are a lot of factors that can speak to your identity as a person. I'll start with the most basic and what I think is a key and what I think is foundational. I'll start with belief. What is your belief? What do you believe in? Do you believe in God or not? Who do you believe in? Because belief is foundational. It's where everything else is founded on. So if you believe in God, for example, I do believe in God. I'm a Christian woman. Because I believe in God, then a lot of things about my life are founded on that belief. It speaks to how I think, it speaks to how I treat people, it speaks to how I behave, how I act, it speaks to what I eat. I wish, but yeah, I try. What I eat, how I dress, how I basically live. It's the lens from which I see everything. So I think belief is a very key factor that speaks to identity. The other thing I'd say is culture, maybe where you come from. How have you been brought up? Who are the people around you? How do you do the things that you do? Things around you. So culture tends to shape identity in a way or another. Though culture can change, it can be, it can change. But yeah, depending with who you are and where you are, it definitely shapes your identity as a person. Another thing is relationships. Who do you hang out with? They say birds of a feather flock together, and the reason why they flock together is because they have things in common, which also speaks to your identity as a person. You can totally be defined by the people around you. Show me 4 of your friends and I'll definitely tell you who you are. So relationships, people around you, who do you hang out with? Because if you hang out with wise people, if you hang out with 4 wise people, you're definitely the 5th. If you hang out with 4 fools, well, what can I say? The other thing is values. Your values definitely speak to your identity a lot. As a person, what values define you? Kindness, generosity, integrity, all the opposites or lack thereof. So what values do you have as a person? What values do you stand by? What values are you an ambassador of? And morals. I think it's hard to separate values and morals. Yeah, values and morals. What are those values and morals that define you as a person? Because even your values and morals tend to speak a lot to your identity, but also speak a lot to the people you hang out with, to how you behave, to how you do the things that you do. Those are the major factors that I can think of that will speak to your identity as a person. And in this video, I just wanted to sort of begin this topic about identity and get us thinking about who are we. Yeah, and even as I tell you to think, I'm also thinking about myself. Who am I? What defines me? What do I believe in? Why do I do the things that I do? What impact or lack thereof is that having in the society that I'm living in and the people that are around me? How does that affect my relationships? How does that affect my work, my career? How does that affect the things that I do? Yeah. And I think once we get to answer these questions of identity, of who we are, we'll be able to answer more questions, like where are we headed? What do we want to do? And it will eventually, evolve into other questions like things of purpose and things like that. But I believe once you're able to know who you are, once you've set the foundation, then all other things come up as building blocks to what you've already set. Yeah, so who are you? What's your identity? How can you be defined? What defines you? What factors speak to your identity? Tell me, let me know who you are. Speak to me down below in the comments and tell me what you think about identity and what you'd like me to cover next in the same topic of identity or any other topic. Just let me know something that you'd like me to talk about. As always, it's a pleasure to get to talk to you, and not really to you but with you because I don't know it all, but it's always good to have these conversations and get to let it out and hear what you have to say, and you hear what I have to say. So let's keep talking. Goodbye. Thanks for listening. Thanks for coming in. Bye.